Hello, it's me. Just never miss a chance to Adele. Ever. Because if you do, I'll have to find somebody like you. Yep. With everyone, welcome back to my clearly very messy bedroom. I just can't get my life together. My name is Diesel, and you are, as always, most welcome. I am baffled. Today we're going to be reviewing a book, obviously. That book is 1,000 Nights by E.K. Johnston. So let's just get right to it. Obviously. So what's it all about? Well, this is usually where I tell you what your protagonist's name is, but oddly enough in this book she doesn't have a name, so she will have to be now known as, well, she. She lives in a world where a king resides over all these villages and settlements, and he has a habit of marrying a girl from each village. He goes around in a loop, and they mysteriously die after being married to him for a night. And she's convinced that when she sees his men coming to collect a bride, that her sister is going to be chosen because she's the loveliest and the smartest and the brightest. I'm not really sure. Either way, our protagonist does not want her sister to be chosen because she doesn't want her to die. So she devises a cunning plan in order for her to be taken instead. Basically, she's sacrificing herself in order for her sister to survive, which is lovely. Now, obviously, our protagonist does get chosen to go back with the king, and then it is a story of her trying to survive, as well as a lot of kind of magical things mixed in, and different bits and bobs of her sisters in mourning for her life, and so on and so forth. I know what you're thinking, Diesel, this sounds kind of familiar. It does sound familiar because it's technically also the premise of The Wrath and the Dawn, which I reviewed, also, if you want to check that out. But they're two very different books. They have the same storyline, but do you know what? Let's just get to the discussion. So the first thing, obviously, I noticed about 1,000 Nights is it has the same premise to The Wrath and the Dawn, which is actually the reason that I wanted to read it, because I really enjoyed The Wrath and the Dawn story, and I thought, oh, this will be cool. I'll get to relive that kind of story, but in a new fashion. There are definitely differences between the books, like one of the obvious ones being The Wrath and the Dawn has a named protagonist that you really get to know. This one, you're not welcomed into her life in that way. The king in this one, whose name I cannot pronounce without embarrassing myself, and Khalid, who is the king in The Wrath and the Dawn, are extremely different. Very similar, but extremely different. Khalid is not the nicest guy ever. It certainly has a bit of rooted evil, kind of strange. But the king in 1,000 Nights, just like, you don't get a chance to become like warm to him. At least in The Wrath and the Dawn, I had kind of a, oh, I don't like Khalid, but I do, and it's annoying me because I don't want to like the evil guy, but then I do. Maybe I just have a bad guy complex because I love Loki. Not on topic, rein it in. The king in 1,000 Nights, I didn't like at all. There's no way to warm to him. He's just essentially evil. And why he's evil is explained in this book, but it doesn't make me like him anymore. And also, why he's evil is a really confusing premise of this book, and I was just left like, what are you even talking about? The other difference is the writing styles of both books. The Wrath and Dawn is not written in like a dumbed down way, because some people will think when I say it's written like a YA novel that means it's not well written, which is not true at all. But you can tell that The Wrath and the Dawn is written for a YA audience. 1,000 Nights, I'm not so sure. Like, I think it's a YA novel because that's what it comes up on Goodreads as, but it's written extremely poetically. Not that YA novels can't be poetic, because Smoke and Bone, or whatever the heck that was called, the Laini Taylor book, that's quite poetic as well. But A Thousand Nights is poetic in the way that it's really wordy. It's really wordy without saying much. It takes forever to get to the point. It's almost as if the author kind of got trapped into making it as like whimsical and kind of fairy tale-ish as possible, and then forgot that we have a plot to get moving. Like, come on! Also, if you were here for my Wrath in the Dawn review, you will know that I said I thought the magic in it was kind of confusing. Well, if I thought that was confusing, then this one was just basically rocket science to me. There's a lot of like mystical, magical elements in this that just flew over my head completely. Like, there's one part of the story which is a really big part of the story. It's like she has these visions and they, I guess, come to life or something, or she can make things, and I just didn't get it at all. Like, the first time she was having one of these visions, I just thought she was having like a dream, and then it developed into this whole other thing, which I had no idea had happened until later in the story, when I was like, wait, that was a dream, that didn't what are you talking about? And this happened quite a lot. There was a lot of descriptions of like energy passing between characters, and I literally couldn't tell if it was actually happening or if it was like a dream again. It was really, really confusing. Again, I think it was a bit of the author was trying to be really poetically beautiful about it instead of just saying it like it was. Which in theory, it was a beautiful novel to read, but to understand it, it's a bit like when you're reading Shakespeare, and you're reading Shakespeare, and you're like, yeah, this is written really beautifully, but I have no freaking idea what it means. That was A Thousand Nights for me, which, not comparing A Thousand Nights to Shakespeare, but not uncomparing them either. Uncomparing them? That's not a word. This is why E.K. Johnston wrote the poetry, and I didn't. I really had to have a sit down with myself and think, if I had not compared this book so much to The Wrath in the Dawn, how would I have felt about it? And I did come to the conclusion that if I had nothing to go off, if I hadn't had the experience of The Wrath in the Dawn, I probably would have disliked this book even more. And if I had read A Thousand Nights first and then found out about The Wrath in the Dawn, I don't think that I would have read it, because I would have just thought, oh, it's the same story again and it'll be confusing. So I'm glad it happened the other way around. Would I recommend A Thousand Nights? No. It personally wasn't for my taste. The story is beautiful, the way it's written is beautiful, but it's almost so beautiful that it blinds you, and wow, that was poetic, thank you. It's just hard to understand what's happening. Plus, I think there's a lot of unnecessary jabber in it, and there's none of the cool characters that you get in The Wrath in the Dawn, which I really missed. I really missed those secondary characters that are hilarious and fun, and I was just left with these characters that I was just really lukewarm to, and was kind of like, ugh. And there was no one to love. There's no character to love, because I didn't get attached to she, and I didn't get attached to the king, and there was no side characters that made it all worthwhile. And yeah, basically, would I recommend this book? No. I think if you want to read something along the essence of this book, then The Wrath in the Dawn is the way to go. If you like wordy, confusing books, then sure, why not check out A Thousand Nights? But personally, I wouldn't recommend it, and I think there are better books out there. of the same spin. Yeah, so that's all. If you have read it, or you're going to read it, please let me know what you thought about it, and maybe you won't be as confused as I was. Maybe it just flew over my head, I don't know. But anyway, until next time, have a very happy holidays if I don't see you until after the season, and Grev Má good for coming. Slán.